All right, we're live. This is MC1 Gamer bringing you another Unlocking Age of Sigmar. So today, we are going to be talking about Stormcast Eternals. And if you're not familiar with Stormcast Eternals, I don't know what you're doing here. I mean, Stormcast Eternals is kind of like the poster child. If it's not Chaos, it's Stormcast Eternals of the Age of Sigmar scene. I am joined by Chuck Moore. Chuck, welcome.
Hey, everyone.
So, Chuck, let me see if actually, let's see. I don't know if we're clicking on to you here. Let's see. Let's do that again. Nick, Chuck, let's speak so we can see if the camera moves over to you.
Hey, everyone.
There we go. There's it shifted. Technology's working. So, Chuck, this is the first time we've been on the show. You know, we've talked a little bit. We're involved in a couple of things, community-wise also, which is great. But I wanted to bring you onto the show. But some people that follow the show may not be familiar with some of the things you've done, how involvement you have in the community. Can you tell people a little bit more about yourself who may not know you?
Yeah, sure. No, so I'm based near Pittsburgh, and I am the author of the Realmgate blog, therealmgate.blogspot.com, Wednesday and Friday posts. And I also am working and helping lead a team of the U.S. community group that the name's getting out there more and more, where we're developing all clubs, tournaments, from local, regional to national level that will be coming out around the Adepticon time, I think is the estimated time frame right now.
Okay, so first quarter next year then. All right. So,
but avid Stormcast player, although if you do read my blog, I am taking a break and going back to my first love, which is Elves here relatively soon, but I think I'll always be picking up Sigmar's Hammer from time to time. I can't resist them. They're so much fun to paint.
So you've played Stormcast at some of these events. What kind of events have you brought them to, and how have you fared?
So a lot of local events, one-dayers, casual events, narrative events as well. The big events, Adepticon this past year, and as well as Nova Open. Played in team events and the GT. I'm unabashedly a Warrior Brotherhood player. I was playing it in my local scene broken, and then they fixed it, and I'm very glad they did because it was a little too broken. But love dropping these guys in from the heavens. Love throwing my hammers at you.
Yeah, I've faced that quite a bit. I had a bloodbath of a game against Warrior Brotherhood when I was at Holy Wars. And I've seen that quite a few times in the local scene where I am too. Yeah, it was pretty good. But do you have any favorite strategies or anything that you've brought down to you, other than bringing the Warrior Brotherhood? What do you like most about the way they're played?
Really, I love the slow defensive onslaught march that they do, and being able to have that deep strike ability. So I started out playing Warrior Brotherhood. When that got kind of scaled back to an appropriate level, I switched to the Hammer Strike and then did that on and off. But ultimately, actually, Nova, which is my last event for Stormcast for a while, I took Warrior Brotherhood again, and I was surprised. It is still very viable, very good. You are relying on some hard 9-inch charges, but if you get a nice banner to drop down there, you get the rerolls. So you're usually getting one unit of Paladins in, which makes it quite nice. So, and typically, I like to build around my favorite model, my favorite rule set for the army, the Lord Castellan. I love a Lantern. He gets Staunch Defender. My Liberators with shields and hammer just don't move. I point at something and say, that's mine.
I've had plenty of I've experimented over the early days of in the early days of Age of Sigmar, basically trying to hit that wall, and I've bounced off far more than not, as I'm sure everybody has, knowing that just how resilient Stormcast can be. So, just for anybody who may not be familiar with the with Warrior Brotherhood and Hammer Strike, can you give just a basic idea of how what's the shenanigans that they bring to the table?
Sure. So I'll talk about the Hammer Strike first. Essentially, you have a unit of Prosecutors, which are the winged with the hammers or the javelins and shields, and they allow 2 units of Paladins to drop within 6 inches of them, and 3 outside the enemy, so you can fly them up, drop your Paladins, get a charge, or the most common combo that I always like to do, Lord Relictor, throw them over with lightning onto a piece of scenery. They survive a turn because I had the Lantern on them too, because my Lord Castellan's obviously there. And then they drop down, so I can get maybe a double turn, give up that first turn, and then getting hit twice by those guys is just wiping out units. Yep. As far as Warrior Brotherhood, Same sort of style. You have to drop 9 inches away, but it's more robust, as in you have 2 heroes from a set list. Lord Celestin, Lord Castellan, Lord Relictor, Venator, and Heraldor, I believe. You need some Liberators. You need some Paladins. I think you also need the Prosecutors as well. But their benefit is they can drop down anytime within the accurate phase. But I don't have to roll that 3 up. I can just drop them down. I can piece them out here and there, or I can throw it all against one side of you if I feel like it. It's still very powerful just because it's movement anywhere. Even with an opponent that can block and bubble correctly, it's hard to cover a whole board with some armies.
Yeah, this is the setup that I think kind of forced the bubble wrap. These types of maneuver, really signature maneuver capabilities, really made people start needing to bubble wrap as almost a default, just because of what happened. Because you have Paladins popping in on your on your centerpiece model, or some important heroes, and they're just gone.
Unless it's Archeon, then he kills your unit by you attacking him.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
that happened.
I've had it happen with Nagash too, but then I've seen him get removed really quickly. I mean, he's got a 4-up against mortals. It's not quite a, you get enough of those shots off. My God, those maces, they ruin your first turn. All right, great.
Yeah.
You were going to say?
I was going to say the hammers are great, but the axes are going to be starting to take the center stage here in the new General's Handbook.
Oh, we're going to get to that. We're going to talk about changes in a minute. So for somebody who is new to Age of Sigmar, and is looking to do something, try something new. Maybe they love the aesthetic of the Stormcast, or they want to get an idea of the style of play for various different army types, and they're exploring that. Because there's just, over the course of the last couple of years, especially since the GHB1, there's been a huge influx of new players. The game has grown dramatically. But as well as the fact that we've had a lot of returning players who already have collections and want to add on them and update them. But for new players, if you were to describe, you gave a little bit of a description already, that slow march. But if you were to give a description of how a Stormcast army is typically played, what really they're about, if the theme of what they're about, even though there's a lot of ways to build a list, how would you describe that?
I would describe them as forgiving in some ways. They have decent save all across the whole army. They synergize very well. There's as a key side point, there's always going to be new models coming out for them. They're the poster childs. You don't have to worry. There's always going to be more Stormcast. There's always going to be new rules and formations, new characters like we saw in Blight War. Mm-hmm. Now, they're not always just that standard hard-hitting army that I like to play with the slow march. You can beef them up and make them very offensive. I choose to play them defensively. And also with the new Hunters and Aquilar and Raptors, you can play a ranged hit and fade type game, which I haven't gotten into yet, but my one friend Matt, he's in love with it, so he's playing them that way. So you really can take this one army, play it in multiple ways depending on the models you have, without much hindrance, and then you can always blend them together and make a very unique style force. So I think it has something for everybody, with the exception of constantly regrowing death models. Typically, I was playing them as very Typically, I was playing them in a very elite 5-man unit style. That will change when I get them on the field in General's Handbook 2017. But I think you'll still see a lot of small elite units going forward.
So when you look at how they're played now, and well, let me first start with this. I really am interested in seeing different ways to play. I've had a couple people on that have gone through some Stormcast lists. I played a lot of Stormcast players locally, and I would love to see that hit and run type mentality, because the most of what I've seen is them just they're a rock, and they really are going to benefit from the new concept of alpha bunkering that a lot of us have been talking about, which is just basically bringing in as quickly as possible a large unit that's just not going to easily get moved off of an objective, and just racking up the points. It's kind of the theory that a lot of people have been prognosticating is that that's maybe where the meta is going to go. But we'll see. We have to actually see it on the table and for it to be a reality. But that's what a lot of people have been really looking towards. The Stormcast can do a lot of those things, but I'd love to see a mobile Stormcast army, a really flexible Stormcast army. Have you actually experienced that? You said you have a friend that's kind of playing with that.
Yes, and it can be pretty surprising. You get a game plan in your head the more you play an army, and I set up. I had my core units. I had my bubble with my staunch defender. I was holding objectives on my side, and then as the game went on, I need to get across there. I dropped the paladins down. I killed the unit, but I need to get farther across. They're slow moving, and all of a sudden he's just jumping in, shooting me up, and it makes it a very close game than what I was expecting because I had my game plan. A lot of people I've heard, such as Ben Curry, compare them to the old Dark Elves, which back in 8th edition, I played High Elves, Dark Elves, Wood Elves. But yeah, it's very hit and run, very movement oriented, and Stormcast aren't wanting for movement. I mean, when they're on the board, they can be slow, unfortunately, but you can put them down anywhere, but those guys can fly across the board. That Lord Aquilar rolling, I think, 66. You choose a direction and you roll 66 and he moves it. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of lists where he's an auto include. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, and he's a beautiful model. Which that's another thing about this army. It's a simple, smooth aesthetic. It's very definitive. It's the Stormcast for this universe, I guess you could call it. As far as you recognize it, you know its shape. It's easy to paint. Very good for beginners. But like I said, you can kind of go however you want with it, and you could probably in the new General's Handbook still play it in the old style. But as you'll see. And I'm thinking of I'm going to try that Alpha Bunker pretty quick, but it's personally, the previous meta was all Alpha Strike, Alpha Strike, Alpha Strike, and I had Alpha Strike, but I'd always built defensively. I'm looking to go more offensively now that we're going into the defensive end. I just want to push against that grain, and that way I give myself an excuse when I lose.
Well, since you mentioned the GHB 17, obviously that's a lot of things have changed. I mean, the game hasn't fundamentally turned upside down, but it's evolved now. There's a whole new way with new allegiances, with new abilities. A lot of armies now have some more maneuverability or new shenanigans that they can bring down on the table. And obviously, we're going to see a whole lot of tools in the toolbox for the Stormcast, which always have and will ever continue to have many options to draw from on how you build your army and how you play it. So. Can you give me some of just a little rundown on what you see as different now with the GH17? What challenges Stormcast is going to be facing, maybe with other armies, with how that you think they're going to need to be played in order to stay competitive? Because I still see them as being and I think most people also do still see them as being top tier, like the tier 1. Some people have called said tier 0 for some armies, but I still see them as being in the top 3 or 4 potential armies to build lists from to perform well at events. So go ahead, let me know.
I think the biggest issue that Stormcast players like myself are going to run into is the fact that it's not just death and chaos and other Stormcast players out there and occasionally Sylvaneth. It's everything. I mean, you have to, and this will be a strength because I feel they're kind of forgiving and you can blend different styles, or we can play one or the other style. But you're going to be having Wanderers that are going to shoot you back up and shoot you back up and shoot you. You're going to be having Darkling Covens who are rank after rank after rank and synergizing off just being around each other, lining against your line. And do you go around? Do you try and fight through it? And not to mention the standard shoot you off the table and then tons of fire slayers. How do you, in this new meta, build to face all that? Because all of that is going to be there. Will it settle eventually? I'm sure it always kind of does at these things, but it's going to be a struggle, and the people that can adapt to the all-comer style of not only list building but play is going to be the strongest people. And I don't know if lists as well. I think we still obviously can, but I think it's going to be more down to the strategy and how you play with these new scenarios against.
Yeah, I can't agree more. It is going to be a challenge, but I think it's a challenge for everybody and for all the factions. I do feel that with the dynamic capability of building lists for different types of scenarios, Stormcast are in a really good place. Well, let's take a look at that. Let's go ahead and look at some lists. Now, I got to say, as I'm pulling this up, I was kind of surprised at what you put in there, and by no means, I think you probably did this. Tell me if I'm wrong. That you built your list, you submitted your list. Just I don't know if these are the lists that you actually play with, or if excuse me, or if you just wanted to do something different than kind of what everybody seems to be putting out there. So, but I was a little surprised at that fact that you didn't really have you didn't have any battalions in these lists.
So yeah, I ran battalions heavy. Obviously, you're having one. I have tried running two before, but I wanted to see how many bodies I could get out there because I have seen some people trying to do that, and I could build a really defensive Stormcast list. That's what I know. That's what I love. So I figured I'd start with that basis, and the fact that all the battalions went up by 100 points, which is really the besides both prosecutors now costing 100 points, which everyone saw coming. Not a big deal. But I decided, like, well, why don't I try and build as defensively as I can with a core list that I would take out of the models I have, which is how I built this. I don't have every Stormcast model, but I have a lot of the ones I like, as you can probably see. And then from there, as we go into the allies, it was, how can I compensate some disadvantages I see within this army? So that's the mindset, and if the viewers can kind of see, yes, I do have 30 painted liberators with hammer and shields. I have 30. I've always had 30. I don't know why people just handed them over to me, I guess.
So before we actually go through this, and actually, no, why don't you please incorporate this into your explanation of what you were doing with the list? Clearly, you're giving up the potential for an early and low drop count to react, and it sounds to me from I'm guessing that maybe you're kind of banking on getting that double turn, taking it, accepting the fact that maybe you won't get that early early move unless somebody is gracious enough to give it to you.
Well, with the defensive style, if someone gives me built this list within my head, I can just turtle up and stay there, position myself properly without because I can commit pretty quickly with the way I have it set up. But if someone takes the first turn, once again, I with some of the units I can weather it. It might hurt more, but then I have that chance to double turn and could really start a swing back in my favor. Ultimately, you can get double turn back, but that's part of the game. I love that part of the game, and I want it to be here. So it's a risk reward, but I think this list can handle one way or the other.
You're speaking my language, man. When it comes to the double turn, I am a big fan of it. Now, I've gotten burned by it, but it's one of my favorite too. That's the whole that is, I think, the single sole biggest angst moment of the game whenever you have to roll for that turn. And it could be, it's just that energy that happens, and yeah, it could bring you back into the game, but it could also stymie your momentum. And I think that's that randomness. Hey, we're rolling dice. The whole game is random.
Hey, every time I'm losing, I'll take the empiric victory. I'm like, I'm going to go kill that unit or that guy. That's all I care about now. I know I've lost, but
I do that.
Your favorite model is going off this table.
I do that all the time. It's just that moral victory. Yes, absolutely. All right, so I'm going to pull up some screenshots as you go through it. But why don't you go through this? Tell everybody what you picked it, and what they're going to do for the list.
Whenever I build a list, I put my Lord Castellan in immediately. I give him Staunch Defender. I just love making a defensive powerhouse in the middle of my army. I've had this guy hold up, let alone if he has liberators around him. At that point, oh, that's not the right one. No, I don't need that.
There we go. Okay, good.
I need defense. So then I decided that got to put my battle line in. So I put in liberators, judicators, and 2 units of judicators. Judicators pretty standard, units of 5.
Well, let's talk about the Celestin. Let's go back to the Celestin for just a minute.
Well, Lord Castellan, not Celestin.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lord Castellan. That's probably I got the wrong one. That's why. Okay.
Yes, Lord Celestin, also a great choice, especially if you're going to be doing a go across the board and hit them in the face style army, whereas mine I build to stand there and get hit and then counterpunch.
All right, I'm going to go pull that up.
Good options.
I'm going to pull up the Lord Castellan while you're talking about the list, and we can take a look at what he brings to the table.
Yeah, not a problem. So, like I said, with the Liberators, I decided to get them their Horde discount, which is something new. I've had units of 5 with my Lord Castellan buffs hold up mass amounts of troops. I can only imagine what 30 will do strung across the board. Lantern will hit everybody. The Staunch Defender will hit them too. It will be insane to have this wall that's essentially on a 2-up rerolling ones, I believe. So yeah, come and get me. This board half is mine, unless they obviously drop in from behind, which will happen.
All right, so let's take a look at I got the right one now. Correct?
Yes. Yep. That's him.
All right, so let's take a look. So what is he bringing to the table? This guy is your general.
So the biggest thing he has is obviously the lantern. It effects. You can put it onto a chaos unit or chaos demon unit and do some mortal wounds, but the 12-inch range and really making something unmovable. You're not going to kill a unit. Maybe if there's a hero there that's on 1 wound, or if it's demon on 1 to 3, and you can roll that D3 for them, it might be worthwhile trying to ping off a hero. But using his other ability, which is to add +1 save to a unit within, and if the unit rolls a 7, whenever they're doing their defense, they'll heal a wound back. So you can really, you're getting a lot of weak attacks against you. I've had units heal back up from, when guy's down to 1 and he heals back up to 2 and so on and so forth. So key thing there for me. It's also very nice that he has 6 wounds, 1 more than most than every Stormcast Eternal Lord on foot. He's not combat, but he's not bad either. He's 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage, or ignore -1 out there. But at the same time, he's not there to. He's there to just hold everything up, take that hill and say, this hill is mine, and these guys are with me.
Okay, so let's move on. Oh yeah, you have your Staunch Defender trait. So
yes, and most commonly people will put a mirror shield on him, which is -2 the shooting attacks on him. There really, you can go however you see fit with the magic items on him. So it's really a matter of choice. I think the most common you see will be mirror shield.
Yeah, I think I cut it off on my picture here. Staunch Defender. So I didn't get all the details on that one.
So Staunch Defender, any Stormcast within 6 inches gets +1 to their save, does not stack with cover, and does not count if you charge this turn. But like I said, I'm never charging with my Liberators anyway. Yep. And with a unit of 30, they're not going to be holding a terrain piece ever.
Yeah, so let's take a look at Liberators now. You mentioned them briefly. You have a unit of 30. Now, I've seen units of 10 and 20. I have not seen a unit of 30 yet on the table. So, I can imagine that's going to be a lot of tin cans to move through.
It is. So I was running them in units of 5, which is the most common way I've seen. I did run them in units of 10 initially when we only had the Lord Celestant on Dracoth, because he had the Battle Shock. Was amazing, so there was no fear. But it was 5 for the most part, just because Battle Shock. But with New General's Handbook 2017, we do get the discount. Be seen as overkill. This very well could be something that looks fun on paper, and I put it on the board and go, wow, that was useless, but it's something I'm looking to try. But not just a matter of just holding this one objective. You could string them out across a whole line, and from there, hold up models charging against you. If you're playing against like a Blades of Corn army, they're going to come after you, and if they can't figure out how to get around you, then all the objectives on your side, and if you get first turn and you march that whole line forward and you can hit a couple objectives, it's because obviously they can claim 1, but if you have units behind them, such as the Judicators, they can just march up slow behind and plank things off and claim objectives as well. Right.
So for anybody out there who's played Horde units already, and I've definitely been one of those people, I've done 60-man units. I've done the 360 strong unit of zombies, for instance. But even just having that 160 strong unit of zombies, I've played the shenanigan where I could claim more than 1 objective. But in the new General's Handbook now, there's a basic rule that a unit cannot claim more than 1 objective. So it's about denial of an objective to an opponent as much as it is taking it with having these big units, even if they can only just secure 1 objective. And I totally get where you're coming from. You could put a line, just a singular line, to make sure that your opponent, even if they pile in, can't get within that 3-inch or 6-inch or whatever the range is to try to even try to take the objective or contest the objective, and then move another backup unit in to start racking up points. Yeah, there's so many ways. Liberators are they're absolutely the staple of this army.
Yeah, I've always loved them. I mean, I love the fact that every person, every liberator was a hero from a human army. So I see them doing that, and I said I've had, even in the previous editions of the General's Handbook last year, I've had one lone liberator hold up a Tree Lord Ancient. Tyler Emerson remembers that pretty well. Actually, at Nova, I had one liberator prime left. He survived. He made his rolls, which was pretty hard because he didn't have his shield. Because as usual, you want to give the prime one the special weapons, but held up an entire death army. So held up 12 snakes, ghosts, zombies, and the rest of the army was just running away. And this one guy's like, "Don't worry, guys, I got this." Had everyone locked in combat and survived till the end of the round. So the next round started. It's like, okay, we'll retreat and do nothing, or stay and kill this guy.
Yes, they're definitely worth the points and worth the include. Okay, let's see what's left here. The Lord Relictor. Okay.
Oh yeah. First and foremost, this guy is not a slouch in combat. Don't be afraid to throw him in. 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1/1 damage. Like I said, it seems somewhat similar to the Lord Castella, but that 1 extra attack, and if you just throw it against a small, not well armored unit, man, he can do some work, and he can also heal himself up. He can do, and that's with his lightning or healing storm ability, which is a prayer. So on a 3-up, you choose a model within 12 inches and heal D3. Choose a friendly Stormcast within 3 inches, heal D3. Or you can do the opposite, which is lightning storm. Inches, you choose a unit or hero of the enemy, and on a 3-up, you do D3 mortal wounds.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than.
And since it's a prayer,
there's nothing worse than dropping the general of your army down to 1 or 2. The general of your opponent's army who's playing Stormcast down to 1 or 2 wounds, or really battering one of those drakes, and then all of a sudden this guy just brings him back up a few wounds. It's just so hard to get these wounds off these models unless you just have an abundance of mortal wounds that you're dishing out.
And it's a prayer, and I won't lie, I've done it in the previous General's Handbook. I might try to do it, tweak this list a little bit when I get back to them, but I'll run 2. I have 2. I'm not ashamed to double heal or double lightning storm or double lightning chariot if I feel like it. And
we're talking about 80. Oh, I just jumped around here. 80 points. Of course, you could put 2 in there.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, they have the special. He has special access to prayers now. The most common that you see is the lightning chariot, where
go ahead.
Plenty of options. Lightning chariot is my favorite. I think it might be the most common, but time will tell. You can see others coming in here soon, and I think it's on a 3-up.
Yep.
On a 3-up, you choose a friendly unit within a friendly unit, so not Stormcasts, unit, allies. You pick them up by lightning, and I'm pretty sure this is just Stormcast. Maybe rules on the left will change that, but
it could happen if it gets abused. Yeah. But right now it says unit, so I agree with you.
Right, I'm at the far left side. Maybe there's something there that says Stormcast only, but that might be missing. Regardless, you pick up the unit, which is usually your Paladins, and you throw them across the board 24 inches, 9 inches away from an enemy. And there's plenty of times where, since I don't really like the Veritant that much, who's the guy that can dispel, I'll put the spell shield on this guy, and once I fling across my Alpha Strike unit, I'll take this guy and just throw him over by the mage, because he can hold his own in combat. And you just sit there and I'm just going to try and dispel your spells. Mm-hmm. You know, I can only dispel 1 like a mage, but I know which spell you want to cast, so I'll just wait and try and dispel that one.
Right. All right. And then we have we already talked about your wait, we don't want to skip the Heralder. Yeah, let's go pull the Heralder up while you're talking about it.
So with him, got to be a little careful. He's only on a 4-up as a hero, but he has his Thunderblast ability. So pick a terrain feature within 15 inches, roll a dice. foe within that many inches will suffer D3 mortal wounds. Be great early on, no, but it'll start off, and if you kill a few units, they're taking a battle shock, and then you can stack on from there. But end of the game, not many models left. I sometimes I'm willing to take that D3 mortal wounds on my, so it will help take out what's there, and I can survive what's left. More importantly, something that is great that I haven't taken much advantage of is this Onwards to Glory, where in your hero phase, you signal the call, pick a Stormcast Eternal unit within 10 inches. It can charge this turn, even if it retreats or runs in the movement phase. So, Dracoffs, Paladors, Lord Selston on Dracoff, Star Drake. Yeah, I mean, he can in and out, in and out.
I just want to know how he's blowing that horn through the mask.
No. If you look in, he actually has his mouth exposed down there. Maybe not that paint job, but other official GW paint jobs, and all of mine have the mask exposed or a head swap.
All right, good job. All right, good quick answer.
I answered it many times. Can you tell?
Yeah, it's a running joke. It was a running joke when it first came out for anybody who wasn't around then. Okay, so now we have a couple of units of Judicators, which they're all kitted out the same. Yep,
that's I like the Skybolt bow. Excuse me. I like the range aspect because I usually, as you can probably tell from this list, put them behind the Liberators. They shoot. Usually be within staunch defender range until end game when I need them to branch out for objectives. And they can put the hurt on. I mean, you have 4 normal guys, 3s and 3s, -1 damage. And then you have the Shock Bolt bow, which you put on the Judicator Prime, and he hits. He has a +1 to hit, so he's hitting on a 2, wounding, and then he explodes. So if you hit, you pick up the dice again and you roll it, and that's how many attempts you get at wounding. So if you roll 2, followed by a 6 to explode, you get 1 wound with. So he alone can output the rest of his unit as far as attacks go, which is fantastic. So these guys are just a staple, I think, in every Stormcast army. They like to reach out and touch somebody. They can be fairly survivable. I've never seen the crossbow variant. I never had interest in running the crossbow variant. I think I might run the crossbow variant if I could give them the Liberator shields and reroll 1s and just drop them down and sit them in cover. But I don't know. I think the Skybolt bow is the way to go with them still.
Yeah, well, look, the crossbows are good, but you do lose a little bit of range. Now, what's your focus on these guys? Your strategy, is it to soften up whatever is impacting the Liberators, which are screening them, or are you using these to kind of snipe off key hero units, or go maybe drop down a few tiers, some monstrous units? What do you look for when you want to reposition these guys as they're moving?
So I'll use them to reposition to objectives primarily. As far as what to shoot at, if my Liberators are in trouble, I will focus on what's attacking them, but my line's holding pretty strong, so if there's a hero within range, yeah, I'll take that shot because I could potentially put in one go. But these guys, I feel, really punch above their weight class and can shoot down elite units quite easily.
Yeah, so a lot of my interests when I try to bring stuff onto the board, whether it's it's summoning or whether it's movement through the Wildwoods or whatever movement shenanigans you might have with the various armies that I've played, I look to these guys to try to diminish these guys as quickly as possible, and that's a big deal because it's at 24-inch range is pretty good, and they are hard, but they're not as hardy, obviously, as some of the other units, but you can get these guys on the ropes. You're doing yourself a favor. Obviously, it's taking heat off of other stuff in your army, but just letting them go and trying to chew through a screening line, you're not going to get anywhere, and these guys will eat you up.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
All right. So now we're looking at the Paladin Retributors. Okay.
So I want to once again give a little caveat that I wrote this list out of models I have. Now I really wish I had Decimators.
So you're going to pick some up then, right?
I don't. I'll just buy more.
Exactly.
I have a problem, and I admit it. Yeah, I won't cut weapons up. I'm just going to go buy more. But the Retributors, they're the classic hammer guys. You have the 2-star soul maces. So it's instant D3 mortal wounds on whatever they're touching. And then they have the Blast to Ashes attack. So these guys have 2 attacks each. Prime has 3. Hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s. But if you hit and it's a 6, is modifiable, 2 mortal wounds. And then that's it. And then whatever extra. So after they've taken D3, or 2d3 mortal wounds from your Star Soul, you get a couple 6s, and they're all defeated. And then you say, oh, by the way, I can pick these up. Okay, now you have 3 other saves at -1, 2 damage apiece, and then the groaning really happens. So as you can see, I put these guys in a unit of 10.
I noticed.
It's a drawback because I can't get all the attacks in. Other times it's a blessing because I'm killing 2 of your units instead of just 1. And the reason I like the 10 is because Lord Relictor will pick them up and throw them. I want to throw as much as I can over there in one go. So that's why I put them in 10.
And then we have a 5-man unit of Protectors.
Yes. These guys really snuck up on me early on in the game because I said, oh, why don't I just take more hammers, more hammers, more hammers? But the more I played with these guys with their Storm Shield, where if they're getting shot at or anything that you have to draw a line across them is getting shot at, just one to hit them. They also do lots of wounds against monsters, so people keep monsters away from them. But and also 2-star soul maces in there. Not the hurt. They have lots of attacks, 3 each. If they don't have the Star Souls, 4 for the Prime. 3s and 3s, -1, 1 damage. As I said, they're monster killers. So if the wound roll with the glaive is a 6 or more, it does D6 damage instead of 1. You could take out a lot of monsters pretty quickly, or at least one good hit and a decent roll could take them down an effective tier level in their ability tree.
Yeah.
So,
plus you're going to get more guys in there because it's a 3-inch range. I mean, come on,
yeah.
Look at those
Actually,
lances.
The formation I always run them in is 2-star souls in front, and then the other 3 guys in the back in like a little triangle formation because they can just hit everywhere. And you can throw these guys up. They're on a 4-up, but that's all the Retributors have, that 4-up problem. But I'll throw them up and they'll do work, or I'll set them back just for the defensive capability to maybe protect some heroes from shooting, because you get the mirror shield on a hero, and these guys in front of them, -3 to hit. It's pretty good to keep your hero alive if you want.
Oh yeah. Explain that please for people that don't know how that works.
So, like I said, with their Storm Shield, if you have to shoot something, if you have to shoot them, or if you're shooting something behind them, but the fire arc, the straight line from the model to the model you're shooting goes past these guys, hit them. And if you stack that with the mirror shield, which I'll usually put on my Lord Castellan, which is -2 to shooting, all of a sudden, they needed a 3-up. They're 3-up to hit with shooting. Now becomes a 6-up to hit, getting attacked a lot less. And on top of that, you have the defensive bubble around you with the Lord Castellan, so a 2-up.
Yeah. And that they're called Protectors for a good reason.
Yes, I said they were really they weren't known to me early on, but when I found them, I really fell in love with them.
All right, let's take a look at the Prosecutors with Celestial Hammers. You got a...
And I guess I should say, too, once again, throw back to my friend Matt, who turned me on to them.
Way to go, Matt. I'm sure he's loving it when he has to face it.
He has them, too. I think he actually has 10 of them, so he taught me well.
Is it a civil war between the Stormcast? We haven't heard about that yet.
Not really, because doesn't some side need to actually win their battles against the other for it to be a true war? Which, Matt, you haven't done yet. Come on.
Oh, calling him out. Oh no. All right. So Prosecutor with Celestial Hammers. I always wonder, where are they putting all the hammers they're throwing?
So they summon them from lightning. They throw it. It disappears after it hits them, and it resummons.
God. A little Thor action. Okay.
The reason I put these in here, defensively, obviously, everyone would think, why wouldn't you go Storm Call Javelins? Well, if I went defensive, and I'm looking at the new Horde meta, not the 2, which gives them the reroll to hit, as far as the hammer throws go. I'm giving them the hammer and shield because they can take a shield, which gives them the reroll ones. So increases defensibility because I have the third guy with the Grand Axe, which Grand Axe on this one you don't put it on the Celston, or you don't put it on the Prime. You just put it on some random bro. Essentially, he makes to make an attack with every model within range. It's a 1-inch attack, but of models with 24 or 25 millimeter bases, and you're gonna be making 6-7 attacks. You're gonna be start chewing through the hordes, and as long as you have someone with that shield alive, they still get that reroll on the ones. So that's why I went with the hammer bros and not the javelin guys in this list at least.
Got it. Okay. So how many of those we have here? We have 6 of them. Okay.
6. And they only have 2 wounds, 4 up save. They're probably going to be outside the range of my abilities. They're probably not going to have a lantern on them. They die. But 100 points each. It's okay that they die. But getting 6 in there, I'm probably going to keep at least 2 axes into that. These or whatever you want, and hopefully do some work on them.
So, got a question from the chat. Rustfelt Blacksmith wants to know if the shield that gives the reroll ones, is it just for the leader of the unit, the sergeant in the unit, or is it for the entire unit?
I'll actually read it. So, some are armed with Celestial Hammer in each hand, while others go armed with a single Celestial Hammer and carrying a Sigmarite shield. So if you're using the Grand Axe, Grand Blade, or Grand Hammer on one of the models, they won't get like the Liberators, but the Prime and the second guy or the third guy in the unit can each have a shield. And that's looking at the unit of 3. So anyone that doesn't have a special weapon can get the shield. And as long as there's a shield in there, and because you can allocate ones however you see fit, as long as you have one shield guy alive, even if all the attacks are going against the Axe guy, you can just make the saves as if you had a shield, because that's just how the game works. With mechanics.
Right, but if a wound goes through, it has to be that guy. Right, that's the only difference.
Wound goes through wherever you allocate it. So yeah, if I'm saving on, so once I fail that, I could put it on somebody else. It's just as long as there's a shield in that unit, you get to make those.
Yeah, I mean, there's no rule that says you have to. That's kind of the way I played with the people that I played with, and they've come up with that to try to be fair. I've seen it also, that kind of same shenanigan with the Iron Jaws, who have this similar type of format where there's a certain amount of guys who have different weapons, but it doesn't actually. It's not an official rule. So,
right.
Yeah.
No, that's entirely fair. So yeah, however your local meta might play it, I suppose.
Yep. Okay, so that's the first list. That is a pure Stormcast list. No battalions. This is not going to get your first turn by default if anybody's taking battalion and has fewer drops. I got to say that my death list has more drops than this, so you'd probably still get first turn against me.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the new meta, we might see less battalions, I'm thinking, and less wanting to take that first turn as far as your game plan needing that. So that's my feeling going in as I'm building my lists.
All right. So now then the next 2 lists are going to have allies included. And that's where the kind of the customization really comes in. Because if you want a list that is going to take advantage, maybe plugging some holes that you might have in your army, where maybe there's some movement limitations you might have. You want something more mobile to bring in from something else from the Grand Alliance that you're able to ally with, or whatever it is, maybe some spell casting that you don't have. This is the opportunity to do that. Okay, so tell us from a high level. We're not going to. I'll pull up some of the new scrolls that we haven't already looked at. But let's take a look at the overall idea of what you're trying to do with this list, what you're planning for, and then we'll take a look at what you've added in, and I'll pull those up as you get to them.
So as I started with this list, you see with the Stormcast, I started with my nice defensive build. Paladins in there just because they are the hard-hitting thing for them, and it's nice being able to throw them forward. But then I thought, well, these units of Paladins and Lightning Chariot, spread myself out, but I do lack mobility if I start everything on the board. So once again, I looked at the models I have, which I have all the Elf armies and a Dwarf army outside of my Stormcast, and currently building Khorne Storm and Sylvaneth, but 8th edition, a pure high elf cavalry list. I loved it. I was pure offensive, just went straight at you, no holds bar, just ran at you. So I thought, why don't I take that same mentality bring in the Dragon Noble, obviously, is the hero. And he will allow is it bonuses to charge? I can't recall.
I'm going to pull that up right now.
Okay, so he'll give synergy to the Dragon Blades, which are the Dragon Blades maybe the best option as far as powerhouse hitting? No, they'll do well, but they could easily get in and hold up a flank of some chaff, which maybe that's how I should use them as chaff clearers, really. Open up that bubble and then throw my paladins in to do the real work.
So you're taking these guys for mostly for the mobility and the
yes,
the Dragon Noble. Yeah, he's got some interesting stuff going on here.
Yeah, I'm bringing mine out too. Sorry, I'm so prepared.
That's
yeah,
okay.
You could give the Dragon Noble. I gave him arm and shield. Favorite thing about this shield, you can reroll all saves. He's on a 4-up. All failed saves, you get the reroll. It's 1-inch reach, 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 D3 damage. Consistent overall. Obviously, you could take the Star Lance, 3s and 3 attacks though, -1 2 damage, and if you charge, you get 1 to the wound roll, so you'd be 3 and 3s essentially. But that requires you charging, and I really don't see this army or these units charging. Get stuck, they're going to die. So I'd rather put out as much, I guess, average damage as possible with the hero, because he can stay and be a little survivable, especially if you're throwing into something that is chaff that typically. So 4-up rerolling is a pretty confident thing in my book. That, and I mean, it's cavalry, and this game is just like old 8th edition. The horses do all the damage anyway, so really the guy on top is useless.
The unsung heroes, yes.
Right, and then looking at the Dragon Blades, 3s and 4s, 1 damage. If you charge, add 1 to the wound rolls, so you're 3s and 3s. They can reroll saves of 1 and 2, so you just don't want to roll any 3s because they're also on a 4-up save. The big thing, though, if they're within 16 inches of the Dragon Noble, which I'm running this as a core ally unit together, no battle shock test. So yeah, I'll survive, and even if there's 1 or 2 guys left, they're going to stay there. I don't need to roll battle shock, and you have to keep dealing with them. So hopefully get in there, maybe chew through some chaff, or try and hold up an elite unit for a couple turns until my Stormcast can position the way I want them to be positioned.
Nice. Okay.
And I did throw a Gryph-hound in here.
Yeah, I was
mostly because I think they're adorable. I put capes and little armor on mine and give them fun names. I guess it should be said, if you're playing in an event that allows Triumph, leave the Gryph-hound off, take the Triumph.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the Triumph is if you have less points in your active list than your opponent, you can roll on the Triumph table, which could be nice. It's a 1-time per game, a reroll of, it could be a hit, wound, or save, one of those 3, depending on what you roll. That could really be a really good situational thing, but I got to tell you, a lot of people, including me, forget it, even when we get it.
Now, I will say the Gryph-hound's ability to attack and run away is amazing, because people will usually ignore him, and you can attack with what you want to attack with first after you've charged with this little guy, because they'll just be like, oh, he doesn't have save, he has 3 wounds, he won't hurt me anyway, I'll ignore him. You fail them all, and then you're like, but I'm going to run away real quick, and I once again did this to on in a casual game. I charged Durthu, which blew his mind with a single Gryph-hound, because then I tried to roll it and get around to be able to sneak capture an objective for a turn. It didn't work out, and my Gryph-hound died, but it was just like, I can't believe someone tried to do that. But he did earn me a secondary objective in one event, GT rounds at Adepticon, because I threw him off to the side because the secondary objective was to get a unit off the opposite end of the table. so the player pulled their zombies out of position, attacked it. He actually survived, and I attacked back and ran away off the board essentially by the next turn. He's just like, that's stupid. I'm like, no, that's amazing.
That is amazing. Now, the one thing that I'm always looking, because I play dwarves too, or excuse me, dispossessed, and I also play Sylvaneth, and I look at this warning cry, especially with the ability to bring in allies, and I love what warning cry can do, and it seems like it allows you to do that for non-Stormcast. It's not just for Stormcast. So maybe you can go over what this ability is and how you might use it.
Well, actually, I've never been able to use it to great effect because usually my adjudicators are spread out, but knowing that they can do that maybe with any ally, where if something pops into your backfield, you immediately get to shoot it if it's within 10 inches of this guy, and one of the units that you have that can shoot is within 10 inches, they can all make a shooting attack. So it's nice, actually, backline defense for things maybe that will be able to port into your backfield or pop in from the underworld or lightning strike from the heavens if you leave that 9-inch gap.
Or summoned.
Yep. And if you were to do that, I would probably pair this guy with the Lord Castellant because he does get a few extra bonuses by being paired with him. And if he's going to be a backlight anyway, many synergies going as you can.
Sure. And 10 inches, you can get the Judicators also probably nearby as well. You have to pick one unit, or is it all the units within 10 inches?
I think it's every unit within 10 inches of the Gryph-hound.
Yeah, it's a big swath of territory. and by the way, that's not just for anybody who wants to understand how this rule works. It's not because if you move a unit into range. It's anytime you deploy the unit. Like for instance, if you've summoned a new unit within range, if a unit has the ability to, like you said, lightning strike or come on the board edge that is within range, it's when they're first deployed. I wonder if this also counts for the movement capabilities of like a lightning chariot or of, for instance, Seraphon to reposition a unit across the battlefield.
I don't believe that because that technically counts as a move, I think, per the rules. I think it's only models set up or deployed. I'm trying to get to him in my book here. Where is he at? Gryph-hound. Yes, if an enemy unit is set up, so that those would count as, with the exception of maybe actually Paladin hunters, or not Paladins, Stormcast hunters that leave the table and reappear. Technically, that would be a new setup, I believe.
Same thing with like chameleon skinks, for example.
Oh, yeah, fair. Yeah, I guess it would all be in the wording of how it says, but I'm pretty sure that the lightning chariot counts as movement, down to how that's decided based upon the wording.
I can see where you're coming from with that because they're already on the table and you're repositioning them as opposed to something that's off the table for whatever reason and then is brought onto the table otherwise. So yeah, I think there's a big there's a big difference between those two. So yes, it's not going to get. I would imagine, unless somebody knows differently or it has a reasonable argument to the contrary, that it has to be something that is positioned from the side, or maybe if it's from a reinforcement pool that's brought on. Any of those things, that would make a lot of sense. But still,
yeah, actually, no, that's a good catch. I didn't see that it affected just any friendly unit, which makes the next list more exciting in my mind.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of it, I have dwarves. I'm not going to get rid of them. I'm looking to make them as good as I can and have fun with them. And I'm thinking of my Iron Drakes and maybe an allied steam tank and maybe a couple of Gryph-hounds. Just these defensive measures,
So my dream crazy army that I have thought up is just as many Gryph-hounds as I can fit into a list.
An army of Gryph-hounds.
If anyone out there wants to see that happen, just reach out to me and send me Gryph-hounds. I will paint I think it's around 50 or so. It's got to be somewhere around there.
So you're like
more than that.
You're like a fanatical a pet owner where you're dressing these guys up in all crazy clothes and silly stuff.
They would all have their own character and personality. They would all have their own specific armor. I wouldn't duplicate a thing. It would be Tavern as you're starting a D&D adventure.
I have to see this. Please, people, send Chuck your Gryph-hounds. Donate to the cause. We have to see this Gryph-hound army. Okay. All right. What do we have next? What's left in here that you haven't taken before?
Let's see. I think we might have hit everything actually.
Yeah. Okay. So the very interesting list and gives it a different flavor and personality than your main list there. All right. Let's take a look at your last list. And okay, so tell me what's different about this one. We have a lot of the same figures, the Castellant, the Relitor, the Heralder. We have Judicators, Liberators, Protectors. We have a couple of new units here. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the big thing, couple new heroes, Spellweavers. Reason I doubled up on them is one, if you notice in this list that it's only 1,900 points, because with this list I will be taking a Balewind Vortex as long as it's allowed.
Sneaky.
Because this is really meant to be more of a shooty list as opposed to trying to go after you type list. I switched the prosecutors to the ones with the javelins to sit back and shoot.
Well, let's talk about the Spellweaver for 1 second. First of all, with the Balewind,
sure.
What do you see as is there a trend where where events are not allowing the Balewind for some reason? I don't know why. I wouldn't know why. Could it be abused?
Well, not at all. It wasn't allowed at Adepticon, but that was also kind of early on with the rule set, so it was kind of a unknown. Locally,
we'll see if Alex is going to let it in this time.
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I'm hoping it does, because I'm taking elves, and I'd love to have one out there.
We'll put Crip in my Lord Croak list.
Oh, jeez. He's not a monster, is he?
No.
Darn. So if you're up on it, the mage can't be hit because I think you have to stay 3 inches away. Doubles the range of spells. You have to summon it. Now, with the new rules of summoning, if you dispel it, you can't resummon it, because then you'd have to have an extra 100 points laying around.
I like that.
But it's just a nice way to take a nice cheap mage and make them much more effective. And one thing that I love about Spellweavers, Ancient Blessings, and this is, to my understanding, per Spellweaver, which is why I have 2. Once per game, the model can call upon these blessings when attempting to unbind a spell. When it does, that attempt is automatically successful.
Now, automatically successful to cast?
No, to dispel. It's the old unbind scroll.
Right. So the attempt to unbind is automatically successful. You don't have to roll. That's pretty key against, for instance, I don't know, Tzeentch?
Yeah, but the only thing is, you have to be able to attempt. So if you're outside the range, you can't attempt. So that's why I have 2 in here. So I have 1 maybe for late game, sitting back and on her Balewind, holding out, and the other one can go forward with the army and try and get someone's grill to dispel, do a little damage, maybe some shielding, and get an automatic dispel in there.
That's pretty good. I like that a lot. And how many points? 80 points off of your ally total. That's not bad. Yeah, you can easily fit 2 of these guys in there. Okay, so you mentioned the Stormcast Javelins, and then we have a Glade Guard unit. So which one do you want me to put up first?
Let's do the Javelins.
All right. So there we go.
So these guys did go from 80 points up to 100, but that matches the prosecutors with the hammers, so this is not really a surprise, and still definitely worth taking. So they are equipped with Stormcall Javelins. As always, there's a special weapon that you want to put on the prime in this unit, the Storm Surge Trident. Javelins do. You have an 18-inch range, 3s and 3s, no rend, 1 damage. But if you're outside of 9 inches, you do 2 damage instead of 1. So if you're attacking at something weak, hopefully 4 wounds to it fairly regularly. And in the prime, with the Trident, 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage, and that's all the time. So pretty decent attacks as well. And they're all equipped with the Sigmar shields. Can't take that special axe for Horde, which is why I went with the prosecutors with the hammers in the previous lists. But with this one, you still get the shield, but you're more of a shooty attack. But it's nice to have that shield whenever you do have to maybe throw these guys out to chaff or block something.
I kind of like the round shields better than the big Liberator shields too. Just the aesthetic.
Then you won't like mine, because I hate those round shields, and my whole army has the kite shields, including those guys.
Really?
So if you want round shields, I can hook you up.
Okay, we'll talk. My son has asked for a Stormcast army. I've told him, he's going to have to paint it though.
There you go. It's a good way to do it.
But you know how it works though. That means I can play the army too.
Right. Well, you're going to paint it then, right?
Which is what happened with my ogres. It's half of that army is his, and I'm the one painting it. All right, so yeah, these guys look. Yeah, first of all, I love the way they look. I mean, just.
I'll beautiful models. Transporting them even from one table to the next table is an absolute nightmare. Make sure you weight those bases because
Oh, I do.
those wings get in the way.
I put metal washers in the bottom of all my bases, and all of my trays are steel, like the magnetic sheet. So I do kind of the opposite of what a lot of people do, which they do the metal tray and they magnetize the base. I like the metal washers because it stabilizes, and I glue it to the bottom with green stuff. It doesn't look great, but nobody looks at the underside of the models. But it gives a nice foundation of weight that these things can't tip. And these guys are very spindly, and oh my god, I would absolutely lose my shit if one of these wing pieces fell off. I imagine I don't know how strong the plastic is, but does that happen a lot? I mean, are these guys? Yeah. Oh god.
No, I haven't had an issue. I mean, I've had one or two where the tip breaks off on like some of the long tips, but really, that's actually you don't notice it. No one does. The hard part is just within the cohesion is kind of hard. Most people are just very relaxed about it, but there's been some games or events where I'm game 4 or 5 and I have these guys off somewhere and they're just in a pile. And my opponent understands and says, that's fine.
Oh, God. All right. Yeah, they must be crazy to put into a storage case with any foam, too.
It is, but they're beautiful models, though.
Yeah, gorgeous. Oh, yeah, especially when well painted. All right, so then you have Glade Guard. Now, there's been a lot of conversation about Glade Guard recently in lists that I've had with people that I've had on, and for very good reason. Let's see if I can pull this up while you're talking about them.
Yep, I have considered trying to get the 30 in there, but I left it at 20 just to keep the list as it is, because I plan to have them in the back line anyway. But obviously, Shooty. With that Gryph-hound in there, as you kind of nicely called out, if someone pops in my backfield, these guys can shoot and they can shoot well. Normally, I mean, you have a lot of attacks. I guess I should change the way shoot well. 4s and 4s, no rend 1 damage, but you have a lot of attacks. And they also have their once per game ability, -3 rends on their bows. And the reason I like to have 30 is because when one dies, bonus, which is at 20, which you get to add 1 to hit rolls, which makes them 3 and 4s. But I believe, if I recall correctly, the Spellweaver allows me to actually regrow them.
Yeah.
Her special spell. Yep, Blessing of Life. I can return D3 slain unit. So with the one that's back there, she can hopefully keep them at that 20. I'd feel more comfortable if I had them at 30, but
it's a lot of points.
It's more shots in the backfield. Yep.
Still, yeah, I love the idea of that once per game -3. Just kind of wipe out an armor save or bring it to a 6 at best. You know.
Right. And yeah. It's a callback to their old Magic arrows they could take. Same name from the previous edition of the game. So I like those callbacks that we keep seeing. Do I miss the old world? Yeah, absolutely, but it is time to move on. These aren't wood elves; these are wanderers. But it's nice seeing those little touches for us that have came through and survived the world that was and held on to the faith and shouting only the faithful even now.
Yeah, well, the Allies is a great way to have not just even if you have several different armies, to bring in more models, but also a great way to bring in maybe some of your old collection that you haven't brought to the table. Give it a little spice up your more modern army with something that may seem like it's out of date as a whole army, but isn't. And frankly, just as a tangent, Wanderers have new allegiance abilities, so clearly they live in the new world. So they're not too much of a throwback.
Oh, I've been looking at Wanderers and Darkling Covens nonstop. I think I'm starting with Darkling Covens just because I love the playstyle they have. So, man, I'm excited to get to the field with those guys.
Well, make a few lists and we'll talk about them. Maybe we'll bring some lists on there. I would be happy to have you on with that. Okay, so anything more to say about just this particular list before we? I do have a question before we close out this list. If you can't take the Vortex, what are you going to do to spend those extra 100 points?
I'd probably look into bringing in either more javelins, taking them from 3 to 6, or looking at bringing in one of the Stormcast heroes. They usually hover between 80 and 120, So I could find one to probably get in for 100, like a Lord Celestant on foot, possibly.
Right. Or 2 more Gryph-hounds.
Or 2 more Gryph-hounds.
Why
Just
not?
cover all bases.
Why not? Okay, so we are going to. I'm going to go in and turn off the sharing here, and so everybody can see my face. That's well built for radio.
He's back.
So that's great. Those are 3 interesting lists. Again, not what I expected. Obviously, still competitive, still strong, still have ways to address a lot of different problems. What's your overall thought in terms of how these might compete and how they might be effective on the table? Which one you have a favorite among these?
Out of these, I would say my favorite's looking towards the Wanderer list with the allies, just because of the mass amounts of shooting. I'm curious to see how it's going to stack up with that nice long defensive line. And obviously with the Gryph-hounds, as you pointed out, a nice little bubble shield in the background to shoot enemies off as they pop in behind me. Really pushing forward as much, I don't think. But that's probably the one I would try out of here. I think a key thing to mention with the Stormcast Eternals, a reason to collect them is not about how there's different play styles, they're always going to be supported, and they're beautiful looking models, is they can ally with anyone. So if your heart's not a Stormcast Eternal, but you like some of their abilities, well, go play whatever order list you want and go buy Stormcasts, because you can bring them right in.
It's a really
Fantastic
good point.
Thing.
Yeah, it's you could have that 1 unit of prosecutors, and I wonder if the points are there to bring in the guy who can transport them across the field, and a unit of unit of protectors, and with some maces.
So I have also played with a list with an Archmage to give that bubble, that 6-up ward,
right,
to go even more defensive, and then also throwing in some Phoenix Guard with their 4-up wards. Like I've built really defensive lists that I don't think I would. Well, maybe I'll throw it against Matt just for fun, but it wouldn't be fun to play against. But it wouldn't really go after anything. It'd just be like, all right, let's see how long it takes you to kill me.
Right.
If you can.
It's just, if you can break up against against those rocks and see if you can move them off an objective.
With some siege rules, though, who knows? Could be fun.
I know. Look, there's more in the GHB than just the match play section, you people.
Oh, there is. And if you haven't picked up Skirmish or Path of Glory yet, do that as well.
Another thing that I'd like to encourage people is to pick up those. The Open War cards?
Open War. Oh, I picked them up when they came out for 40K because I also play that casually, and I saw them they need these for AOS. A month later, they have them for AOS. They are fantastic. I would just sit there and just pull stuff out. If you're going to be running a quick event with your local club mates, you can just use them, and it's random and it's fun, and as long as it's a casual event, I think everyone would enjoy it.
I think you could do it in a competitive event, but it does have there are some people that might object.
I can see that would be a bit of contention, but no, those are fantastic. Oh, and play Triumph and Treachery. If you've never played the old Triumph and Treachery, it was amazing. The new one ports over very nicely. Go play Triumph and Treachery. Just go play all Triumph and Treachery. Just ignore everything else. It is the most fun you will have playing this game. Yeah,
and there's plenty of times where you have odd numbers of people on the table, and there's no better way to get a group of people all in one game than Triumph and Treachery. Any closing words? Anything else? Anything that's coming up that you want to talk about?
As far as the Stormcast, no. I'm just excited to see what they come out with. I'm hoping to pick up a Blight War Stormcast, the Stormcast out of Blight War in the near future. After I get my elf fix going, to add those in, because like I said, I don't have any of those in my army currently, and I'd like to try that hit and run style. And I also want Neve. She's a beautiful looking model, so it's a great looking army. Yep. Definitely don't be afraid to pick up some Stormcast if you're an order player.
So how do people find you? You said you had some content that you provide?
Yes. So I do a blog every Wednesday and Friday. It's called The Realm Gate. If you just search The Realm Gate blog in Google, it should be the first one there. It's therealmgate.blogspot.com. I'm also on Twitter at Jimbo9Jimbo. Actually, I am at Odium, ODIAMH. Feel free to hit me up there. If you're ever at any event and you see this face, I'm sorry, but come say hi.
Well, I'll put the links in the notes below for anybody who wants to follow you. Chuck, thanks so much for coming on and bringing these lists and describing them. We'll have you on again, and everybody out there, I know there's a lot of people that have been messaging me asking for a lot of different lists. I've got a lot of these queued up. We're gonna have a lot of people on. I'm trying to get different people with different types of lists. I'm definitely gonna try to hit you up again, Chuck, with Darkling Covens, because
I'd be happy to.
That's gonna look very interesting. I cannot wait to see how 3 units of 20 get all the accelerator bonuses. That's going to be a lot of fun to play around with, and I'm sure there's a lot of people, including me, who've thought about maybe starting up that army too. But yeah, just to everybody out there, I mean, I get a lot of requests for these. I'm working through it. I mean,
there's only one man, everybody.
I mean, if you want to start donating Patreon to me, I mean, or something like that, I'll try to get these out like every day, but I'm trying to get at least one a week. I've been doing 2 or 3 a week. But let's try to get at least one.
I'd be happy to come on and talk elves with you anytime.
Throw up a list, man, and we'll schedule it. All right.
Only the faithful.
And thanks everybody for tuning in, and have a great day.